Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Pursuits podcast. I'm Greg Trainer, along with my co host, Mike Hudson, and we're really glad that you're here with us today. We got our buddy from Oklahoma, Mike Burnside, and he's going to be talking a little bit about his adventures with his daughter, Kenzi. And we're really glad that Mike is here with us today. Um, let's see.
Glad to be here,
Mike,
guys.
glad to have you, Mike, really. Mike, what's going on down in South Carolina, man?
Man, today's a beautiful day, dude. It's one of those typical spring days. Here we are. It's June, man. This year's getting by quick. But the weather's turned out pretty good. We've been getting those little pop-up storms here and there, but we've got my grandson here today, so wild man's out there wanting to throw water balloons and have Papa chasing time. So we're gonna have some fun today.
Man, there's nothing better than having the grandkids around. We had them over the weekend, and I don't know if you realize this or not, but the technology on water balloons has come a long way.
Oh my
They're,
gosh.
they are no longer just water balloons that you tie into a knot. They got these magnetic little balls that the kids can fill up in a cooler themselves, and then clip these things together with the magnet, and they just throw them at everybody. And Grampy in a power chair is not safe from the water balloon.
An easy
Friends,
target.
I am
Oh
a,
man,
I am an
he's got
easy
these.
target.
He's got these ones that you can fill up like 20 balloons at a time.
Oh
It's got a
wow!
mass little piece you scrub into the or screw into the faucet, and it'll fill up every one of them at once. And I mean, it's game on.
Oh, technology's come a long way since we were throwing water balloons. But
Oh
man,
yeah.
that's great. You got him there with you, and I'm happy for you today. Now, Mike, it's been a while since you've been on our other podcast, Accessible Hunter, and of course we're trying to talk about accessible pursuits today. But you want to give us a little bit about your background and Kenzie and your wife Janet, how you guys are, making out.
Yeah. Yeah. We live in Oklahoma, northeast Oklahoma. We're north of Tulsa for those familiar. We're halfway between Tulsa and Kansas line. And we've lived here 2000 yeah. Oh no, we moved to Tulsa area. This is kind of close to where I was born, in this general neighborhood. So we moved back here from Texas in 1994, and you know, J- Janet's a flight attendant for American Airlines. That's what she's done since she got out of college. It's done that ever since, and she does international flying now. Uh, we'll talk about that more getting into it, but her career and my career has worked out perfectly for our family life.
Right.
Because I had my own business since 1996, so had flexibility in my work also. We had triplets uh, back in 1995, and one of our sons didn't survive. He only lived 5 days. Our other son, Thor, uh, he's off in the working world. He's married. His daughter his wife, our daughter-in-law, just started CRNA school, nurse anesthetist school, for the
Yeah.
past 2 weeks at Missouri State. So I helped move them to Springfield, Missouri, and they're living up there in a travel trailer. They're going to be there well, she's going to be in school for 3 years. So yeah, their lives changed drastically because now they're down to one income, and he works on the road. He works for a pipeline repair company. They go all over pretty much the Midwest, and he doesn't do I will say he doesn't do the physical work like the welding, sleeves, stuff like that. He's the locator right now. He locates where the digs are, tells them, okay, it's 20 foot down here. We've got pipelines going this way, that way, water lines, so he locates where that dig's going to be. And Kenzie, our daughter, she lives with us. They'll be 30 this fall, and she's lived with us ever since. Says she didn't want to live anywhere else. She's just going to live with mom and dad. And she has cerebral palsy, and like you've seen, she loves adventure. And we've had a great life together. She's introduced us to more pursuits by her love of doing everything. So that's kind of our lives in a nutshell. You know, trying to think of anything else. We live on 80 acres, and we've got 2 ponds, and Kenzie loves to fish in those ponds.
Yeah.
And so that everything is just kind of played out the best way it could have for our situation.
Yeah. You know, man, I just got to say, Mike, you guys are an inspiration, man. Me and Greg have been able to follow you for a while. To see you and Kenzie dancing. Here she is in all these road races. Man, it's always inspiring just to see the amount of energy you pour into it. She's absolutely living her best life, man. She's got me jealous most of the time. I'm watching her catch big fish, and I said, doggone, I'm just gonna come over there and just be Kenzie's buddy, and we can go out and have a good time. But man,
Like,
you guys exhaust me just with the amount of videos you put out, and you guys are all over the place, man. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
Kenzie loves she just loves everything there is. There's not much, and she wants to do it all.
Yeah,
And she's got a love for life. Now, I won't say she got that from me. Uh, she just loves to do it all, and of course, it will. I mean, it wears me out. I'll be the first one to say, I look forward to kind of the January. It used to be January, February time frame when things kind of slow down. There isn't a whole lot going on. That's kind of my recouping time. But that's in the past couple of years. That's kind of out the door. We're busy in January
yeah.
and February anyway.
Sure, sure.
And yeah, we just don't know any other life, which is a good thing.
Well, Mike, if you kind of take us back to the beginning, did you or Janet have any background of knowledge about disabilities, or when Kenzie, was born and you had the diagnosis, how did you kind of, prepare for life? Did you have disability knowledge in your past, or did you have to start doing research, or how did it start in the beginning?
No, we were both flat-footed. I mean, we didn't know, at least from my point of view. I mean, I knew some with disabilities, just on the surface. Didn't know anything about it. And I know when the early on, oh, and I don't know how what it's probably in the 7 month time frame. The best thing that was going for us was, we had, we call them surviving twins. I mean, we call them twins now.
Yeah.
And so we had Thor and, it's Kenzie side by side, and Thor was doing things, he's rolling over, he's crawling that Kenzie wasn't doing. And so we had a benchmark say, oh yeah, why isn't Kenzie doing this and that?
Mhm.
So, we started taking her to some, okay, what's happening? Why is she behind? And I always remember when we first got our first diagnosis, and I'm thinking it was around 8 months that the doctor told us, well, she's got moderate to severe cerebral palsy. Well, that, as a husband, as a father, didn't know, okay, I'd heard of cerebral palsy. What is that? Well, when you say moderate to severe, well, our child's going to be, she's going to be moderate. Everything's going to be fine. And but like y'all know, until you get a diagnosis, you can't. There's so many more things that open up for you when you have a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, her doctor, her pediatrician at that time, just said, well, it's just delayed development. Well, hey, it's not delayed development. Not she's too far delayed.
Right.
So we paid for, the insurance game as well as I do. That, oh no, well, I'm not going to refer you to this or that. And I believe we were on HMO at that time, and so we paid to have a neurologist, do a neurologist visit. And I mean, within 10 minutes, he goes, yeah, she's got cerebral palsy, severe cerebral palsy. And that just opened up the whole world. Okay, she qualifies for this and that now. So
Yeah.
that, you have to go through, fight the insurance, go through all those things. But, we still didn't exactly, hey, I'm a dad. I don't know. I've seen people with cerebral palsy, they will have trouble walking, things like that. So that's in my mind. Okay, she's gonna, she's going to have trouble walking. And of course, at that point, at that time, we started getting, it became more clear. They told you, hey, she's not going to be able to do this, this, and this, and this. And I always remember, my wife Janet, mom, she was kind of in a funk, after we got that diagnosis. And I remember when we lived in another house, and she was out on the patio, and she was having some alone time. She's having trying to work through it, and she says it was God talking to her through me. Yeah, might have been, but it was just me throwing it out there. And I said, hey, this isn't the life we would have chosen, but this is the life we're dealt. We can
Right.
either choose to go through life, hey, pity ourselves, pity this, or we can make it Kenzi's best life possible.
Yeah.
And Janet said that snapped her out of it. And that's when we chose to, hey, we're just going to make it the best life possible for Kenzi, do everything we can. And so that's kind of where it all began.
Technology's come a long way, and it sounds like, Kenzie and them, along with me and Greg, is all about the same time frame-ish. I'm on my 30th year of paralysis, and when we first got hurt, it's kind of you hear the words, you don't really understand, they don't really flap in there, and so you're trying to figure it all out, right? But we didn't have Google, and we didn't have all
Yeah.
this, WebMD, so we're trying to figure it out. I'm sure it was a huge gut punch for you and Janet, just trying to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? And then you're right, you had to play the song and dance with insurance and all that stuff. And so before you even know what you got, you're kind of behind the eight ball until they just finally say, all right, this is what you're dealing with. And then they give us, either false hopes or they give us worst case scenarios. So I'm sure in those early ages, you guys were really, what can we do?
Oh yeah.
What's she gonna be?
Well, yeah, like you said, I mean, we didn't, kids, young adults in today's world, they can't imagine. What do you mean you didn't have Google? You didn't have Siri. You didn't have, it wasn't like we could just go on the internet find this stuff.
No.
It was finding books. We couldn't have, AI program. Hey, what are the long-term diagnoses of cerebral palsy?
Mhm.
We didn't have that. It was all okay. Let's find a book and let's read about it.
Mike, you brought up a really good point, though, and it takes some people a day to get to that point. It takes some people years to get to that point of acceptance on this is the diagnosis. This is going to be our life together as a family, and we're going to move forward with the best life possible. And, you know, when you face something like that, for me personally, once you realize a choice that you can either go on and do things or, you're going to sit and wallow in misery, choosing life, choosing the best possible experience each day makes such a difference. Your attitude can change overnight just by your mindset. And I just wanted to bring up that you made the conscious decision, and as Janet said, maybe God was talking through you to her to get her on the right page for the family, for all of you to move forward. And you did it pretty early in the diagnosis. So
Mhm.
I think that's important for people to know.
Yeah. And it's I mean, great point that, it didn't, we have to, the earlier we accept that and say, what, we get to choose from this point forward how we're going to live this life.
Yes, sir.
And that makes all the difference, that in your attitude and how you approach everything.
Yeah. And you got Greg said it, you said it. We make a daily choice. We got to get in it, get up. We can't do anything to change the diagnosis of their injury. We can change our mindsets. And you guys are definitely inspirational to me and Greg. I know you've got a magnitude of people that just follow everything. And Kenzie, doggone that laugh is contagious. So anything she's doing, man, she's jumping in full bore. And you can see the passion in y'all and her and life. I'll be honest, we had another guy on the podcast the other day, and we've all got friends that have cerebral palsy, and their timing to me is always priceless because one of my buddies, it takes her just a little bit longer to get some of the stuff out, and Kenzie's is always on point. If she's on the trigger or whatever, soon as that trigger shot goes off, call mom. call mom,
Oh,
and you're like, man, that's perfect.
Yep.
she she is, and people say, her smile, made my day. It's like, and that's a good thing. I'm lucky. I tell them, said, man, I get to see that smile every day. And I mean,
Yeah.
it can sure change, I said that God put us together the perfect talents and gifts, all three of us to
Yeah.
make a great team. And her smile, her laughter, her enthusiasm, it sure helps fire me up to do these things. I mean, and her laughter. I mean, she can when she gets that belly laugh going. I mean, you can't help but laugh because it's contagious.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mike, growing up for Kenzie, what was her schooling like in Oklahoma, and what was the public school system like? Did you get, pretty good supports? How did that work for her and her education?
It's like anything. Who knows? It's all part of God's plan. In
Yeah.
Tulsa, at the time when they were young, we lived in a suburb of Tulsa, Broken Arrow. Uh, it's one of those things you can't tell where Tulsa start and Broken Arrow stopped. They kind of went together. And we lived outside of Broken Arrow, in the country on an acre and a third. But there's a school in Tulsa that's non-denominational uh, for special needs, and it's called the Little Lighthouse. And no tuition free. They take them from 5 years old through I believe it's through 8. Don't quote me on these dates because it's been too long. But so she went there, and because they're the woman who started it, I think 50 years ago. Uh, she her daughter was had she was legally blind, so they basically started school from scratch for those with special needs because they're behind and everything, and helping to get them in inclusion, and they have speech therapists on staff, occupational therapists, doing those little things. So she actually got to go there and had a jump on what she would have where she would have been behind. And so she went through there through her kindergarten year, started in Broken Arrow schools, and it's like anything, luck of the draw, just however it works out as planned. But Kenzie had a great experience when she got rolled over to public schools in Broken Arrow. Went early years elementary, had to perfect Paris, helping her, the best teachers. It was they all those people involved were really good for what they did.
Mm.
And then when we decided, hey, we want to move out somewhere, because Broken Arrow is one of those monster. I mean, all that is just monster schools. They were going to her and her brother were going to be one of, I think, like in a graduating class now. Maybe I don't quote me on those numbers, but it's somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 for a graduating class.
Wow. Wow. I was surprised at that.
Oh
Wow.
yeah. So we wanted to get away, so they wouldn't be just a number. So
Yeah.
Janet, I mean, I will say Janet did all that. Looked at the school systems, looked at everything she could find, and we decided on two school systems, and Oologah, where we're in the Oologah school system, and its claim to fame is, we're in an area where Will Rogers was
Yeah.
born and where he was all raised. And so this is the one that won out. We moved here, we found land, and we built our house. We built it, knowing basically on Kenzie's going to be living with us, so it's all handicap accessible, everything like that. And we moved here when Kenzie would have been, I think she would have been starting the 6th grade, and they had a great school system. The inclusion, everything was great on that aspect of it. They were really good about, she was on the school cheerleading team. I think through the eighth grade. Then when she's in high school, she got on the school choir. The choir teacher he was really big into inclusion. She'd get up there, be with all the rest of the choir when they're singing, and she just loved it. I mean, the school was just great. So I mean, the school, we were really fortunate that everything worked out great. The teachers and the parents, were, I don't think we could have had a better experience. And I think in her class, it would have been, there's probably around 120 to 130 that graduated. So, a lot, a whole different world.
We're blessed, man, to be able to come on here and highlight different people chasing pursuits, what their passions are. Um, how much input does Kenzie give you into you guys' next pursuits, or where's she leaning? Where's she wanting to go to next? We talked a little bit about some of the races she's been in, and people can follow you on Facebook and those others, and you guys have done a ton. I'm just curious, what's the next pursuits?
You know, oh gosh, she's got camp next week, Camp Barnabas, uh, in Missouri. For those that don't know, I mean, it's a special needs camp. She absolutely loves it. So we drop her off Sunday, pick her up Friday, and that's the 1 week a year where Janet and I are by ourselves. We're a couple instead of three people.
Yeah.
That any other time she's always with us. She will, we always ask her, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to do this? So and so has invited us to do this, and I'll throw a caveat in there. I mean, we'll talk to her about hunting. Okay, this so and so has this hunt coming up, so and so, but then you don't talk about it until it comes time because her anxiety level will drive you crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, because she's nervous, she's a creature of habit. Hey, what's my schedule? What's my schedule? And she's just until she gets there, she's I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's like, well, and I tell her, I said, what's your number one job? And we've got this memorized. I said, what's your number one job when we get there? She said, have fun. I was like, yeah, you just have fun. Mom and dad will worry about the details. You just have fun. And once she meets everybody and knows what the schedule is, everything's great. And then she kills an animal, on hunts. Oh, yeah, it's the greatest day ever. And we'll hear that many times. It's the greatest day I've ever had. And she's just worried up until that point. But yeah, that's other than trying to think. Oh, she's got some hunts lined up this fall. She got drawn for Nevada outdoorsman in wheelchairs antelope hunt in August, and so we'll travel up to Nevada for that. I put her in for Oklahoma controlled deer hunts, mobility hunts, and she got drawn for a hunt, and it's at our lake. Just 20, in 20 miles we'll be there. And that's the only one to put her in for because it's too handy, and
Yeah.
it's actually I think it's got the highest deer hunting success of any hunt in the state, be it mobility, be it regular, non-mobility. They just have fantastic hunting and facilities. It's a great deal. So we hunted there last year, and she happened to get drawn this year. So
Fantastic.
So we talk about those, and hey, I want to put this in for that, and she, yeah, put me in, and then that's kind of I'll tell her, okay, you got drawn, and then you don't talk about it till it's time to go because
Well, Mike, a lot of people with disabilities, myself included, I have anxiety when my schedule changes. If I have to travel, I'm a grown adult and I still worry about, well, how are we going to get there? What's the schedule? Where are we staying? Is it going to be accessible? If we're going to an event, is it wheelchair accessible? Is it really wheelchair accessible? Or do they say it's wheelchair accessible? So I think a lot of people with disabilities can kind of sympathize or at least understand the high anxiety of changing schedules and traveling, and as much as you guys do. Um, I was
well,
wondering. I was wondering.
I was just
Yep,
going to piggyback on that. I
yeah,
know, you guys know as well as I do. Somebody will say, "Yeah, we've got a handicap accessible place." It's like, yeah, your version of handicap accessible isn't what a person with disabilities is
right.
handicap accessible.
It, it,
We've all been there. It's like, yeah, this isn't handicap accessible. Yeah, it's somebody who can walk. This is handicap accessible.
I wouldn't be traveling with two portable aluminum ramps in my van
Yeah,
and a pop-up ground blind and all the other things we have to take with us just to make sure that it is indeed handicap accessible, and plan B, C, and D has to follow.
yeah.
Um, I was kind of wondering when you noticed that Kenzie had such a love of the outdoors. Was it early on in life that you took her hunting and fishing, or you mentioned you have the two ponds on the back acreage? Did it start with fishing, or how did her love of the outdoors begin?
Fishing. I've got some really good lifelong friends, have a big ranch. They're about where we're at now, about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes away from here. And they've got more ponds than, I go up there and fish because I've been up there, fishing and hunting on their property for 30 plus years, 35 years probably. And I see new ponds all the time. I went fishing with them last year and we went and fished new ponds, because they've got neighbors, that, we can go fishing here. I can go with this pond. But so we went up there, we started out and we took Kenzie, I think when she was 3 was the first time we took her fishing. We had her little chair. I would take her chair, unload out of the pickup and put her in it. We'd go up to the shore. And the earliest pictures we've got, she was around 3 years old, and she just loved that. Just thought that was great. And so we fished. When we'd try to do that, on a regular basis. And fishing was probably the first initial start. And hunting, she went turkey hunting when she was 15, and it's one of those things. I'll be honest. Hey, she's a girl. She's not going to want to hunt, like brother does. And that was Dad overlooking, that when she graduated high school, and I've got an audio recording somewhere that the first time we went hunting, and it was here on a property, set up a ground blind and took her out there, and I took snacks and took some, hot chocolate, and we were sitting out there, and she, on that audio, she says, when I was younger and you would take Bubba, because she would call Thor at that time, she'd call him Bubba. So you take Bubba hunting, and I always wondered when was my time, and now's my time. And I was like, man, that hit hard. She was just waiting on me to take her hunting.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So she is at that time that, she fell into it. She loved hunting, and I've always said that, being totally dependent on somebody, that I said for the self-worth that she's putting food on the table. She's never been able to physically do something for the family. So she's putting fish and game on the table, or donate it to the food bank, or, food pantry, or giving it to friends and family. That gives her tremendous self-worth. And absolutely loves it.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I know you and Janet, you guys are wide open, all in day to day, taking care of her. Does Kenzie have anybody else that comes in with you guys, like caregiver or anything like that? I know, I didn't want my wife to be my caregiver. It's a different situation. But at the same token, family members, they're stuck in there, and they kind of get the brunt of the deal. But how does her day to day go?
Yeah. I mean, we're it. We're the caregivers. Uh, Janet and I, like I said, our work was perfect for our situation. She'll be gone, 3 days on a trip, and I would work my schedule to where I'm going to be home, during those 3 days. So I do all the things to Kenzie, getting her up, putting her to bed, and now we will probably, since she graduated high school, she goes to an adult day center, 2 days a week, Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
And she absolutely loves it. It's about 30 minutes from here. It's in the town of Claremore, and we'll take her there, 8 to 8:30, drop her off and pick her up at 4 o'clock. And she loves the interaction. The elderly, a lot of the elderly people dolt on her, and they have different activities. They have cornhole, which she has an aide help her throw the cornhole things, and she's as competitive. There's one boy, I call him boy. Anybody's a boy to me anymore.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
he's in his early 30s, but I made the mistake of calling him her nemesis one time, and she was telling Janet something on the way back from the day center one day, and she couldn't figure out what she said. She finally figured out she's saying nemesis. Like, where did you hear that? It's like, well, Dad. I was like, yeah, because she's like, Kyle is my nemesis. Because
Yeah.
they just compete against each other. She has a blast of that. And so Mondays and Wednesdays, I could always do my work in Tulsa area. Uh, I could be there if need be. So we just make it work. Uh, one of those things, we adjust our schedule. We don't know any different. That's just the way it's done.
Right.
And you know, yeah, I'd like there's times, of course we live out. Trying to find a caregiver would be more of a challenge, trying to get
Yeah.
somebody dependable, this and that, like you guys know.
Yes, sir.
So we just do it. We've made it work. There's times where Janet's coming in and okay, hey, I've got to leave. I've got to go so and so, halfway across the state, or we just make it work.
Mike, a couple of years ago, I noticed that Kenzie got a new trailer and, to haul her track care around, and it was Cowgirl Kenzi. And I thought, man, that's the brand to be. It's kind of neat to see and everything. It has to give her a sense of self confidence and kind of like a superhero identity. And living in Oklahoma, the rodeos are real popular and everything. But can you tell us a little bit about the Cowgirl Kenzi brand and what that's all about?
Yeah, she did therapeutic horseback riding forever. And
Yeah.
I had taken her. Janet was gone. I took her that week for her ride, and she had on at that time. She had some boots that cowgirl boots that had all leather stitched flowers and stuff on them, and her jeans tucked inside them. It's one of those came up part way, and well, I just happened, for whatever reason, that day I was taking a picture of her, getting ready for a ride and everything, and I said, came up with a, hey, Cowgirl Kenzi, and that just stuck. I was like, yeah, that's a perfect, and of course she liked it.
Yeah.
She thought that was great, and so yeah, just Cowgirl Kenzi that stuck with her, and of course it just went from there. It just flowed so good that yeah, it all developed from that just one happenstance. I just said Cowgirl Kenzi and it just stuck. So I was like, okay, we'll run with that because that it sounds great. I mean, and I will say that all the time about old Cowgirl Kenzi.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And the minute I seen that, I thought, man, that suits her personality. That's her nickname. That's what she rolls with. And I just thought that was really cool. I wanted to mention that.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is I can't think of anything different that it'd be. I mean, one of those has become so natural. I can't think of anything different we could have done.
Yeah. Getting out there, branding that kind of stuff, finding your personality. Greg hit it right on the bot, man. That is her altogether. One of the other things I was going to touch base on is I know you guys get into a lot of different stuff with like Ansley's Angels, and how'd you get teamed up with that crew and her passion? Because she's been in several races, man. How many races do you think she's been in so far?
Oh man, I don't know. She's probably. I think she's done six or seven marathons.
Wow.
Uh, and then she'll do. We went last Saturday. We're going to do a 5K in Tulsa last Saturday morning, and it got rained out. There was a lot. We are going to do it with just rain, but there was a lot of serious lightning, and so the whole race got canceled.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, there's usually I'd say one a month to do, and we probably in the last. I mean, this spring we've missed a lot because we've had other stuff just going on. Well, we already got this in the books, this or that, and man, I don't know. She started that. I'm gonna say about 8 years ago, and just happenstance. Somebody told us about it. Hey, have you heard about the Ainsley's Angels? That'll push those disabilities in the chairs. No, and of course she just loves it. I mean, just that wind blowing through your hair, being able to do things. She never felt that.
Yeah.
Get to experience all that. And and I know you, Mike, you did the same thing. She did the Marine Corps Marathon,
Right.
and
Right.
that just happened. And we've got the perfect ambassador. Man, just outgoing. Hey, I want to do it all. Inclusion, this and that, and her and and like here we go again. The girls, they're all in their 40s, 40s, 50s, but they're all girls to me. They
Yeah.
hey, well, let's do fundraisers. So we all did a fundraiser and everything, raised money. And they flew up there. We all flew up there and they pushed Kenzi in the Marine Corps Marathon. And so yeah, it just the perfect, God plan that the right people are put in our path. And yeah, Kenzi, like I said, Kenzi, there's very few things that she didn't want to do again. I mean, once she does it, yeah, I want to do it again. Snowmobiling, I will say snowmobiling is one thing she doesn't want to do again. That's a different story, but yeah, when she was young, we went, Thor went, her brother could go snow skiing. And, well, he said, hey, I'll take you snowmobiling, mate. Janet, we all got on snowmobiles. Well, we used a big Velcro strap and strapped her on the front of me. She was sitting in the chair in front of me and strapped her on the snowmobile. Well, the problem with that is, like you guys know, she couldn't lean. And so in snow, you've got to be able to lean to get that center of gravity back to a point. Well, we'd be going, and it was anything slow. I mean, I'm going slow with her. Well, it's leaning over, and I didn't have enough to get back to center of gravity. Well, we just slowly turn over in the snow. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to. She's
Yeah.
been consistent. She'll say, no, I don't want to go. So that snowmobiling is the one thing I can say she doesn't want to do again.
Mike, though, you find out what works and what you don't like to do. And Shepherd Center puts on a adventure skills every
Yeah.
summer. And whenever I was first injured, I went back down for my first adventure skills, and they took me out on a jet ski, and kind of the same thing. They velcroed me on the back, and I was trying to hold on to the girl, the woman in front of me, and she's riding that jet ski across the lake, and my head's bouncing against the back of her head. And I knew right then that I did not want to jet ski any longer than that trip was going to be. So I've never been jet skiing twice. You find out what you like and you put your energy in that, but you also find out what you don't like.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could see that. I mean, yeah, it's like Kenzi when she loved amusement parks. Yeah, just absolutely loved. And thankfully, we Six Flags over Texas, was real accommodating. Hey, we can, do this and that. And and of course, I loved, Janet and I loved amusement parks when I was younger. As you get older, they're not near as fun. You
Right.
know,
No.
but Kenzi, she would love to ride those roller coasters, and you'd have her, sit in. Then she got to the point. There's a double loop roller coaster, and of course the attendant said, "Hey, does she want to go again?" She'd always say, "Yeah." And I was like, "No, I'm ready to get off." But okay, we'll go again. And
Yeah.
then she'd get to the point, hold my hands up like those people, because the people in front of us won't
Right.
have their arms up. And so I've got her head cradled, and I'm holding her hand straight up, and we going through this double loop roller coaster. And I was like, this isn't near as fun as like I used to enjoy it. And
Right.
well, after she had those rods put in her back, and that's what they said, we asked, okay, can she still do amusement park rides? I said, yeah, she can, but the sensation's going to feel different. And so she probably may not enjoy it. Well, sure enough. I mean, it was like, no, I don't, and that sensation was completely different. Now she had those rods stiffening her back. So,
Yeah.
that's another thing she didn't want to do after that.
You guys are awesome ambassadors for so many other things. And I know you guys just picked up a new sponsor and you got a bunch of stuff going on with a lot of activities. What's your next adventures going to be? Like I know we touched a little bit on the pursuits of some stuff you guys got coming up, but just you, what do you see in her near future or long term?
Uh, really the hunting, yeah, the huntings are constant, and because people, like, how did she get? Well, there again, if I would have grown up playing the piano or cello or reading, been my passion, it would have gone a whole different way. But that I grew up,
100%.
I grew up in the back 40 where, at a time where, if dad gave you a box of 22 shells, there better be something coming back with each 22 shell. If you
Yeah.
had 7 shots gone, there better be, okay, you've got 4 squirrels and, 2 turtles and, okay, I missed one, but there was something to show for that, for each shot.
Yes.
And so, that's what I just grew up. I mean, hunting and fishing was my background. That's what I knew, and provided for the table. And, so that's why my emphasis has always been on outdoors at Kenzi. And, anything I can't, there is, I will say there's talk, behind my back of, another marathon, off somewhere, you know, uh, that there's whispers I hear about that. It's like, and I just say, okay, just let me know. I'll let me arrange my schedule. And, that, that could happen the next year or two. It will happen the next year or two if that's, but of course she always does the Tulsa, the Route 66 marathon in, November each year, here in Tulsa. And, other than that, I mean, nothing, out of the ordinary. Always, it's funny when we're looking at our schedule in January, for the year, it's like, man, boy, the schedule really slim this year. We really don't have that plan. And
Yeah,
then just
okay.
in a couple months, it's like, oh my gosh, how did all this how did all this happen?
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Yep. Mike, recently you guys posted some video from Swole Fest. That's always an event that I look forward to seeing you guys in video on. You just want to touch base real quick about that event?
yeah, that, Swole Fest, it's a, they set that up. The Nick, the guy that set it up, he started that when he was basically in high school. And I was like, well, we asked him, what, hey, years ago, what's Swole Fest mean? Well, at that time, he said, hey, we're all in high school, and you're all swole, meaning you're all buffed up, so you're looking for the best fish, Swole Fest, and it's amazing. It's an amazing foundation. I mean, the money they all raise, goes strictly into, giving back. I mean, there's no, of course they got to pay expenses, but, they give thousands of dollars. They gave at that one they gave thousands of dollars scholarships to school, the local Grandin school. They have a commitment, and I think they gave $50,000 this year to a hospital down there. They're building. It's almost like a Ronald McDonald House. It's not called that, but it's that same sort of thing. And I think their commitment was $250,000. And I think they say next year they'll make my last payment. So it's all back. And then they have an inspirational person every year. And, this year it was a, boy that's, local. He's been there. I've seen him for years. He loves to fish. They're taking him and his family to Costa Rica, I believe in February. They're going to go fishing for billfish and things like that. And Kenzi was their inspirational award recipient in 2021, and that's where they gave her the track chair, gave her the trailer, took her on an elk hunt, and, yeah, I mean, it's just such a fun activity. Dancing. They have the music, the live bands, the music with the weigh in, seeing all the fish being brought in. And Kenzi, went, fishing, caught the flounder, and, it's just neat to see. I mean, it's hard to describe. It's one of those things you almost have to experience to see how great it is.
Yeah.
We go there every year. We said, we want to go back just to help support them. But it's just like, we made so many friends. It's like, you feel like, man, we've got to make it back there. And, and it was when we were there the first day, we went to weigh in, weighed in Kenzi's first flounder. Well, there was a 350-pound swordfish being checked in that
Wow.
somebody caught. I got a video of it. I was like, man, that's incredible. They said it took 3 hours to bring in, but they
It,
they had
it,
over 1,000 participants in the fishing. So it's a big deal.
it's an amazing thing that they do. And watching the videos, every year I kind of look forward to it and seeing what you and Kenzie are doing down there. But just such a great organization. I want to make sure we mentioned that, and what they've done for you and Kenzie, and the smiles on her faces every year. I look forward to it.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just it's fantastic. The Kenzie last year she wanted to hand out popsicles. All the volunteers. So her and Janet bought popsicles. Hand them out. And this year, Janet couldn't find the popsicles that she wanted to give out this year. So I said, "Hey, how about just making homemade ice cream?" So we took our ice cream freezer and we made four freezers full. We got that going in a hotel room while we're up there getting all this ice cream, and it was a hit. Now I will say, Janet, we perfected. I would say she perfected homemade ice cream during the pandemic year because we were having homemade ice cream, at least 2-3 times a month because our son, his at that time girlfriend would come over. We played cards, and yeah, he's like, "Hey, can we make homemade ice cream?" It's like, "Well, yeah, we can't do anything else, so let's make homemade ice cream."
Nothing better. Nothing better.
Right.
She handed that out.
Building community and raising awareness, that's really what it's about. We get blessed, we get to do these podcasts highlighting people like yourself that are constantly on the go. You're tagging all these different organizations and whatnot. But Mike, if you had somebody that their kid was just diagnosed with CP, they're going through all that, what kind of advice would you give a new family that's coming up in this, knowing what you know now?
You know, uh, change your dreams. And we look at dreams. Okay, in 20 years I want to do this. 30 years I want to do this. I say, when you got a child that, you got to look at the short term. Don't say, okay, in 30 years, look at those achievements. 1 year, 5 years. That's your long term goals. 1 year, man, our son is, he's crawling, or he's able to spoon feed himself. Celebrate those small things.
Right.
It becomes short term dreams. And live for the moment. And it's like, yeah, like I said, you know, um, that isn't the life you chose, but hey, this is God. What can we do to make the best of what we got? Enjoy that time now because if you sit there and play the what if game, yeah, life will pass you by. And
Mhm.
Kenzie's shown me that you know, yeah, her achievements, you know, she's accomplished more. It made me more proud of things she's done that somebody said, "Oh, she'll never be able to do this or that," and the people she's impacted just by her personality, the things she's doing, celebrate
Oh yeah.
those things because that
Yeah.
that's the things in life that really matter.
Mike, we sure appreciate everything you do. Your whole family, you're great advocates. You're the perfect example of choosing to be happy, to be choosing to be out in the outdoors, not sitting home, not wallowing in disability. You're out there making things happen for the whole family, and setting an example for others to follow. And I'm glad you're our friend. I'm glad you take the time to come on our podcast whenever we ask you. We sure appreciate you and your family. And I'll give you the last word, Mike. Take us out.
Me, this mic or
That's on you,
That's on
Burnside.
you,
oh,
You
buddy.
got
okay. Well, hey, I thank you guys for having me on. I love following you. I mean, everything you guys are do. I mean, pushing inclusion and helping others find those people that they can say, hey, this person's got the same sort of situation, or there's something that we can build on. That because disabilities, yeah, like hey, this isn't the life I chose, but okay, what can I do to make this the best life? And Kenzie's made it easy for me, I will say. I mean, yeah, life isn't easy, and like I told the kids, one of the things I always said in when they were growing up, hey, yeah, life isn't fair, but this is
it.
it. You're going to find out as an adult, life isn't fair no matter what,
Right.
and so, just make the best of it because our time here on earth is pretty darn short, and
Right.
enjoy it while you can. But no, thank you guys for having me on. Glad I can hopefully help impact somebody. The decisions they need to make and what they need to do.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to come in and pigeonhole off of what Greg said. Thank you for your time. We know you're a busy fella, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. You guys are always pushing positivity. I love it. And we'll have you on any and every time you guys got anything going on. Thank you for being our friend, man. And you know, always stay in touch. If we can do anything, man, just hit me up.
Thank you, Mike. At some point, I'm sure I will be doing that.
Good. I look forward to it.